Hey there. Have you ever had one of those days, or maybe even one of those weeks, where one bad thing happens and it just completely sours everything else? Well, today we're going to talk about a brilliantly simple metaphor that might just change how you handle those setbacks for good. And it all starts with a story about a man at a massive turning point in his life. A police officer who made one really terrible mistake that cost him, well, pretty much everything. So he was found guilty of misconduct, and the fallout was fast and brutal. The very first thing to go was his badge. And you gotta understand, that wasn't just a piece of metal. That was his entire identity. It was who he was. And with that badge gone, his whole career just poof, vanished. I mean, can you imagine? Everything you'd spent years working for just gone in a flash? But it didn't stop there. His financial future, all that security he'd been building up for years, it was completely wiped out, gone. And if all that wasn't enough, on top of losing his identity, his career, and all his money, he was sentenced to 5 years in prison. I mean, what a completely devastating turn of events. Now, here's the key part. When he finally got out of prison, he was standing at this huge crossroads. He had two doors in front of him. One door led toward renewal, making things right, moving on. The other door? It led straight to ruin, to holding grudges, blaming everyone else. And the path he chose? Well, he walked right through that door to ruin, totally convinced the world had screwed him over. And watching this man choose to let bitterness just take over his life, this really strange and maybe kind of weird image popped into my head. Yep, a baguette. I know, it sounds a little out there, right? But stick with me, because this is where everything starts to click. This is the key to a massive mindset shift. Okay, so here's the big idea. Just imagine for a second that your life is a baguette. You start eating it, it's fresh, it's delicious, but then halfway through, you bite into a piece that is just awful. It's stale, maybe even a little moldy. Just a terrible, disappointing bite. Now, here's the thing. That one bad slice, it's not actually the most important part of the story. What really matters is the choice you make right after you taste it. And this is where you see those two doors again. The officer, he chose the sour slice mindset. He just kept chewing on that one awful piece, letting that bitter taste completely ruin the rest of the loaf for him. But there's another option, right? The fresh loaf mindset. That's where you acknowledge the bad part. Yeah, that slice was terrible. But then you mentally set it aside and you choose to savor all the good bread that's still left. And this is so crucial. A healthy mindset doesn't mean you pretend the bad stuff doesn't happen. No way. It just means you put it in its proper place. That failure, that setback, that painful moment, it's just a slice. It's not the whole story. It is not the whole loaf. There's this quote that just absolutely hits the nail on the head. Bitterness digs a grave, but mindset builds a life. Think about that. When you hold on to that bitterness, you're just digging yourself into a hole. But when you actively choose your mindset, well, that's how you start building a life, even after you've hit a really sour slice. So this all sounds great in theory, right? But how do we actually do this in our day-to-day lives? Well, next up is a really simple practical ritual you can use every single morning to reset your perspective and start focusing on the fresh parts of your own baguette. It's seriously just 4 simple steps. First, you just take 3 deep breaths to let go of yesterday. Then you acknowledge that sour slice, but you frame it correctly. That was just a slice, not the whole loaf. Step 3, you name one fresh slice, something you're grateful for right now. And finally, you set your intention for the day, telling yourself, today I choose to savor the good. It's such a powerful way to start fresh. And hey, if you really want to dig into this for yourself, here are some fantastic journal prompts to get you started. You can actually identify your own sour slice, think about the choices you made because of it, list out all the good stuff that's still in your life, and then decide how are you going to approach your very next bite. And really, that's the question we want to leave you with. Your next bite is today. Every single day offers you a fresh piece of that baguette. So no matter what happened yesterday, the real question is, how will you choose to savor it?